Thank you again to everybody for attending the Specright webinar on automating workflows and processes inside of Specright. This is Adam Armstrong. I also have on the phone Adam Fugate. Adam, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Perfect. We can. I'm going to give a quick introduction to Specright for those of you who are not as familiar with Specright, and then I'll jump directly into the demo to walk through a handful of different examples of how our customers use Specright to automate their workflows and processes. We'll go about 20 minutes on the demonstration and then open it up to Q&A at the end. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to type those in the questions or comments section inside of GoToMeeting. So Specright is a cloud-based software platform designed to manage specifications. The core of our business is managing packaging specifications, but we can store and help you analyze and share everything from raw material and ingredient to finished goods and bill of materials specifications. We're built on top of the Salesforce App Cloud, which enables you to integrate with other software systems. There's global infrastructure, so you can access Specright worldwide. And there are a number of pre-built tools, some of which we'll showcase today. And definitely after the webinar, if there are any follow-up questions or you want a one-on-one demonstration, we'd be happy to set that up with a member of our team. So with that, I'm going to jump into the Specright platform. I'm going to start us out at the finished good bill of materials level, just because everybody's familiar with a product, drill down to an individual component, and then talk about the various workflows and processes. This is a sample spec grouping or finished good for apple blueberry granola. The templates that we have built are flexible and customizable to your needs. On this particular template, you'll see that you can store identification information, master pack details, you can put costing information, as well as shipping details for your outbound products. There's then a section for each of the components that make up your bill of materials, and you can attach any file type. For the purposes of today's discussion, I'm going to jump into an individual component here, which is the shipper corrugated product for this apple blueberry granola. And this individual shipper can be tied to as many bill of materials as you want. Here on the specification page, you'll see that there are various sections for the spec details, such as structure, print, purchasing, and more. So let's imagine that this is a new item that whether you're a packaging engineer or developer or a supplier has created this specification. The details have been entered and the status is in process. So the first workflow that you want to trigger is an approval process. So this may need to go through the quality department and to the head of engineering to review, make sure everything looks okay. You can also involve vendors or third parties in this approval process. So I click the Submit for Approval button. It could automatically notify somebody that's been set up previously, or I can manually choose the approver. So for the demo purposes, I'm going to send all the notifications we do to myself. So I'll send this to Adam Armstrong, and with any luck, that triggered off an email asking stating that there's a approval request awaiting response. So you'll see I just got the email. The actual text of these email templates can be customized, but there's a link to go directly to that specification. And you'll now see that the status is pending approval. The record has also been locked, so no changes can be made to this while it's in the approval process. There's a link up here to approval history, so you can see past approvals it's been through, and then here's the section for me or whomever the approver is to come in, make notes. I reviewed it, everything looks good, so I'll approve it. At that point, it can move on to another stage of the approval process, or in this case, it just requires one approval. So you'll see that that was logged and the status has now been changed to approved. Adam, anything you want to add on the approval process flow?
No, it's just that this is one simple example. We have a number of clients that these things go through numerous stages, and they can be approvals can be involved one-to-one, so you can go from me to a supplier, me to one person. The approval process can also bounce around to a number of people, as in a first and when, so they're approved or a rejected scenario. So again, this is fairly simple, fairly straightforward, and we can obviously modify this to get pretty much as elaborate as you would need. One other quick thing to point out is that we're looking at this as a record type for corrugated. One thing to keep in mind as you look at everything we do in Specright is that it's all modifiable, and it's a fairly simple process. So it isn't something that I want a template to look like this. I want to add these 10 fields or these 20 fields or add a section. These things are very quick and easy for us to do and to customize it to fit your needs. So.
Definitely a good point. I'm going to move on down the page and next show off a change request. So let's say now that the specification is approved, a few months have gone by, and somebody wants to make a change to this. Depending on your processes, you may have individuals that have the rights to just come in and make edits anytime, and you may have others that need to file a change request. So I click New Change Request. That'll bring up a form to fill out. Once again, you can add any sections that you want to. You can select a supplier, and then you can leave a section so that if a supplier needs to add notes, you can. And please change the flute to C. So I save this change request, and then you'll see it has a record for the change request. I can go back into the specification, and then when I go down to that change request section, you'll see that there hasn't been anything added by the supplier. This one was completed earlier, and once again, this can trigger off an email notification if desired. Moving on from the change request, I'm going to go down to this quality record section. So within Specright, you have your specification attributes up above, and then you have the related list below. With the quality record, you can do a line report or a quality audit and refer automatically to the data in the specification. So in this case, we're looking at a corrugated item. So this could be a line worker, this could be a QA inspector, and they're checking this item that now has been created and is officially running. So I'm going to enter in an audit date. You can put a lot number. There's once again a section for supplier comments later on. And then these are the actual measurements that you're doing. And this is a pretty basic form right here. These can get as complex as you want. So let's imagine that I'm checking this particular shipper and I'm putting in each of these measurements. You can set tolerances that those can be within, add any comments, and save. So now, when I save the record, you'll see that it gave each individual result a pass or a fail, and then overall it gave it a fail. Before I go back into the record, Adam, anything you want to add?
No, I think you've already touched on it, but we do this for, like I said, a number of different commodities. Obviously, this is on packaging. We do it for everything from food ingredients, and with that, I mean, we're talking a lot about interactions with suppliers here, right? But obviously, in your business, you can have a lot of interaction. I mean, one of the areas that's always seemingly gets a little complicated and difficult to manage is new product development, right? So the same principles and things that we're showing you here, they can work with internal groups and resources, maybe new product dev, and you need to talk to marketing and or sales or production or whatever that is. You can have the same type of interaction, data back and forth, and get it all captured in one spot to get a spec and or a product to an approved status. So just keep in mind, this is one scenario, but the same form and function works for many, many scenarios.
So because the audit failed, the status has now been changed to corrective action required. So this automatically triggered a corrective action alert to the supplier and your contact listed for them. So as I go to my email, I'll see that I got a corrective action required email alert with a link to go directly to the specification. So I'm going to go back into Specright and I'm going to log in as if I'm that supplier. So one unique aspect of Specright is that we encourage you to give your suppliers access to the system. You can choose which items and specifications they're able to see, what details they're able to edit, and redact anything you don't want to from their view. So as you can see in this situation, there's only 3 tabs up top and a limited number of specifications they can search and view. So if I go into that C200 and I go specifically to a quality record, as the supplier, I don't have the ability to edit any of these details of the actual audit, but I could add comments. So whatever my reasoning is as to what was a failure or what was right or incorrect, they could add any comments. And then you can obviously take the dialogue offline if desired, but the biggest benefit of them logging it in here is that then over time you can go back and you can look at the historical record of all nonconformances, corrective actions, and how long it took them to reply, and how long it takes for it to go back into an approved status. So moving on from the quality and corrective actions, and once again, please feel free to type in any questions, and we'll be happy to answer those in a few minutes after we wrap up the demo portion. So to orient ourselves, we're back on this C200 specification, and we feel that it's very important, and our customers definitely derive a lot of value from the linkage between all the elements. So the fact that the quality records are tied directly here, the supplier you can click into to see the full details of the supplier, as well as your contacts, a list of the items that they run, any QA records, as well as attachments directly tied to that supplier. So everything is interlinked. So I'm going to go down to the file section of this C200. You'll see that you get a thumbnail preview of any PDF or image attached to a specification. You can attach any file type. And in this situation, we have a certificate of compliance document that is attached. There's a rule that's been written in that at the 30 days before expiration of this particular document, that'll trigger a notification to the necessary parties. So that way, you don't have to manage the document expirations in terms of compliance and regulations. You can set it up so there's automatic notifications sent directly to the supplier to upload a new version, or for anybody internally that needs that notification as well. So I'm going to change the expiration date to 30 days from today, and then that should trigger off this document expiration notice. So I got an email that there's a document for this particular item that's expiring. If I click the link, it'll take me directly to that particular file so that I can replace it, I can view it, and I can do what's needed, make the changes, and then once that file's updated, it can change the expiration date to the new one, as well as notify any parties that it's been completed. Adam, anything you want to add on that section?
No, sir. I think that pretty much covers it. I think that same logic can be applied to an individual spec. In this case, we had it set up for a document. You can add that same logic for an entire specification. Let's say that you have your specifications that expire every year. You want to make sure they go through an approval process or reapproval process. You can do it on finished goods. You can do it on supplier data. That same logic can be applied to virtually any piece in here.
Perfect. Very good point. So the last area I'm going to walk through and then open it up for questions is the bid RFQ scenario. So many of our customers, their procurement and purchasing groups, use Specright to execute bids. A massive benefit of having all your data in the Specright system is that you can run reports and aggregate that information quickly and easily. So in a bid scenario, it cuts down the prep time significantly. So I've taken us over to the report section. I have a specific corrugated bid data report. I can go in and customize this. So there's a filter that is only pulling corrugated items. You could do this for flexible or glass or any component type that you want to. I could also add a filter if I only wanted to put to bid items for a particular division or department or location. And then any fields that I want to add to the report, I just drag and drop and then run that report. To share this with your supplier community, both incumbent and potential suppliers, I'm going to go over to the Exchange. And the Exchange is a way to share multiple specifications. Oh, I jump out of my calendar. Way to share multiple items or specifications at one time. So in this case, it's a bid. I'm going to put a 30-day duration on it, and then I can choose that report that I already have, upload it. I think I have another. Let's see if I search corrugated. So I have corrugated bid report. This one has the IDs. So that automatically grabs those 139 specifications. If I wanted to add a few others to that list, I could. Otherwise, on the next step, I choose the suppliers that I want to share this bid with. Each of them will have access to log into the system. And so now this is telling me, do you want to confirm? Do you want to share these 139 specifications with these 3 suppliers? So I confirm that, and then I'll go back over to my supplier account. So this is where I'm logged in as Howard Jones at the sample supplier Acme. And if I go to the report section, you'll see that he has access to that corrugated bid data. So the supplier can see everything in aggregate. They can also click into any individual specification. They can view those details. You can hide any sections that you don't want them to. You can also include any attachments if you want them to be able to view files. And then you can include a section, if desired, where they enter actual bid quotes. And so it's really up to you kind of how much of the process you want to keep contained within Specright and how much you want to take offline. Before we jump on to the Q&A, Adam, anything that you want to wrap up with?
No, just, I guess like I said, in general, kind of reiterate, everything that you see is pretty much modifiable. This is one version. Obviously, every company manages a little differently, and it's all secure, and again, this can be extended to internal as well as external, and it's can get about as elaborate as you need be to fit your business model.
Thank you. So with that, open it up to questions, and definitely appreciate everybody listening in and following the demo portion. Hopefully that was informative, and we will have a video that can be shared after the fact. The first question that we got was, who sets up these processes? So Adam Fugate actually heads up our implementation and onboarding group, so I'll let him take that one.
Sure. It's a great question. So the process is typically what happens is that we'll work with you. Part of my groups is that we do all the onboarding. So we'll sit down with you and we'll talk about things, what are your goals, who's going to be interacting with this. We'll customize these templates. And as we do this, we'll also talk about things like the approval processes and or interaction with, like I said, internal or external folks. And generally what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll map these things out, and we'll start with some kind of baseline, whatever that may be, or get as elaborate as you need. But my group will do the vast majority of the work. Generally, we do all of it for our clients. We have some clients that want to be a little more hands-on. We can extend some operations and some things to you if you would like to do it on your own. But generally, my group will go through and take care of this for you.
Perfect. And as you were explaining that, I was navigating over to the setup menu and just showing where there are some of these areas that you can modify yourself, such as editing the template for the notifications, as well as the users and approval processes.
Right. I think it's also worth noting for everyone on the call is that our approach is that we don't just get you set up and walk away. You'll have my team and a customer success coach that is with you forever. So as long as you're a Specright customer and you need changes or you need help or whatever it may be, we're there to support you going forward. So it isn't a we don't just turn it off at some point. We're always there to help you out. We have clients who are incredibly high touch. That's the way they want it. And like I said, we have others that there are certain areas we do for them and things they handle on their own. So we'll make sure that we put together a plan, a support plan to fit what you need.
The next question that came in was, what kind of time would you think it would take to input the data into the Specright database? I'll let Adam Fugate elaborate on this, but it's really dependent on the number of items that you have and the format that they're in. Our team will do everything from extracting data from PDFs to working with suppliers, and certainly the fastest is a bulk import from another system or uploaded from an Excel file. But our team does this heavy lifting, and they do it for a number of our customers. We also enable you to enter some of the data yourselves, as well as have the suppliers do that. But Adam, a general time estimate you can provide?
I mean, it's, to be honest with everyone, it's a big, it depends. But generally, one of the, I think, very cool things about what we do is that you don't have to wait till everything is done. So as an example, let's say you have 25 different spec commodities. We can do them as we get data. So the first one, let's say it is corrugated boxes, and you have 1,000 of those, right? So depending on the shape of the data, but we can build the templates as we're going forward, and as soon as we have data ready for the corrugated, we can load it up there, and it's ready for you to use. So you don't have to wait until it isn't a 6-month or a year-long process before you can start working on it. As things are in the system, you can start using them. Generally, we sort of, again, it depends on the situation. Somewhere between 30 and 90 days, we have a lot of stuff on there, or you can have a fair bit. It all depends on, I should say, what shape your original data is in. To give you a real-world example, we have a large food and beverage client. They have about 3,600 specs in total. They gave us a data dump from their ERP system of all the data that they had available. We built all their custom templates, got everything up on the system, all 3,600 of their specs loaded up in 30 days. Now, granted, that may be a little faster than normal, but that's not crazy because we could do a mass upload of data.
Thank you, Adam. The next question, as expected, always one of these, cost. What's the cost for Specright? So there are really two drivers of the cost. There's a one-time fee for the implementation and onboarding, and then it's an annual subscription, primarily dependent on the number of users. So if anybody would like a formal quote, then you can follow up with estimates on the number of specifications and number of users, and we can follow up on that. The building out of these processes and workflows that we demonstrated, that's included in the implementation and onboarding, as Adam explained. So we have time for a couple more questions. I have one right here that asks, is there a limit to the number of specs I can have? Let me pass that one to you, Adam Fugate.
The answer is no. I mean, we can pretty much, we have customers with many thousands and some with a few hundred or even less. It depends on the situation. But generally, I mean, we don't really put a cap on the number of specs you can have or the amount of data. We talked about file attachments as an example. You can store, with all of that data with your specs, you can store, Word documents and PDFs and image files. Those three types of files will create a thumbnail image, but you can also store Excel documents and native CAD files or AI files, whatever that may be. But part of that is built in. If you need 1,000 specs and 500 finished goods, great. If you need more than that, less than that, that's okay as well. That'll be a part of the overall package that Adam's group will put together for you.
Excellent. Well, that takes us right up to the 30-minute mark. So appreciate everybody hanging around till the end and for your time with us today. Definitely excited to dig into more detail on kind of how these workflows and processes work and specific customer scenarios. So please follow up with us. You can reach us at hello@specright.com or reach out to anybody that you've been in direct contact with at Specright.